It's homecoming week, everyone's excited.
Celebrations marred by violence.
All of a sudden you're running from bullets.
New today, we hear from students impacted by the shooting at Morgan State while police search for the persons of interest in a new video. Then we continue to press the mayor on what he's doing at the local level to curb gun violence. Adnan Syed back in court today.
We're hoping that in the end, we'll have a chance to prove justice, not just for Hayes' family, but for our family as well.
Our team is looking at the argument from both sides.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We have continuing coverage on the Morgan State University shooting as police search for this group of people caught on camera near the incident.
On Tuesday night, 5 people were shot at Morgan State University. 4 of them were students. Baltimore and state police, the FBI, and ATF all responding to the Morgan State campus that night, combing through dorm rooms and searching the surrounding areas for suspects. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. We have team coverage tonight on Baltimore's leaders' response to the shooting, plus the latest on the investigation.
Let's start with Rebecca Pryor, live at Morgan State now with new details in the investigation. Rebecca.
Hi, and Mary, there's still a somber tone on campus today with classes canceled, homecoming on hold, and the search continuing for those responsible for Wednesday's mass shooting. Overnight, police releasing this new video of who they're looking for. Take a close look. They're asking for your help identifying these 4 people who police say were in the area when 5 were shot, of which 4 were students. In the meantime, police aren't revealing any other details about who these people may be. They're simply calling them persons of interest. Students we spoke with today say they're still in shock this happened on their campus, and some of them are questioning if they'll ever return.
Normally people would just be outside, just talking with their friends, listening to music, and that's what they were doing that night. And it was just, all of a sudden you're running from bullets. So now people are inside, people are going home just to think about it.
Now, police say none of the victims were the shooter's intended targets. Of those victims, we now know that 2 of them have been released from the hospital and the other 3 are expected to make full recoveries. Reporting live from Morgan State University, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
I heard the gunshots because I was standing right there and it happened right there too. So I just saw everybody running and heard the shots going off, and then I just had a fight or flight instinct and just ran, just like had a U-turn and ran right into the building.
It just didn't feel real. It's stuff you see in movies and stuff. So it was unreal.
Students feeling that shock of that shooting that happened. Morgan State University is now canceling or postponing all of their homecoming activities planned for the rest of the week. That news came from the university's president. All on-campus events except the homecoming football game and homecoming gala will be canceled. Those 2 events will be postponed, but new dates haven't been announced. When they are announced, you can bet Fox 45 is going to bring those to you. All classes are canceled for the rest of the week. You can find more information on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
As another mass shooting leaves Baltimore residents worried for their safety, they are turning to the mayor for some answers. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our live team coverage. Mackenzie, you are pressing Mayor Scott for more answers and his plans to keep the community safe.
Yeah, Mary, and right now the mayor continues to look to Congress for answers to curb this violent crime that we continue to see. But now the mayor's office and the mayor himself are skirting new questions we're sending him and asking him about legislation introduced here in Maryland that supporters say would send a message to criminals that this violent crime won't be tolerated. Whether it's on college campuses, community block parties, or on a school lunch break at Popeyes, the bloodshed in Baltimore is happening everywhere. Mayor Brandon Scott looking to leaders down the road in Washington to help break this cycle of bullets, cutting lives short.
We cannot continue to ignore the elephant in the room. This is a national issue that has to be addressed at the national level.
When we pressed him on why congressional assistance is the right approach, he says,
because it's their job.
Why can't you and other state leaders push for legislation at the state level to ensure there are tougher penalties for people who shoot and kill other people?
I think that when you look at Maryland's laws around guns and gun violence, we have some of the best in the country, Mackenzie. The guns are coming in from other places, other states. That is why this is a national issue. It's a both and, Mackenzie, not an either or.
Thursday morning on Fox 45 News.
I'm not surprised seeing the recent Goucher poll that 53% of residents have an unfavorable view of the mayor because of statements like this.
Community activist Eurypsy Morgan says people in the city are searching for solutions, not national appeals.
They want to know why there are not stricter penalties for people who are carrying guns illegally in their communities. Why would you not go down the street in Annapolis where the laws are being made?
We sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott Thursday about legislation at the state level, asking, why didn't you support the Violent Firearms Offender Act or the Repeat Violent Offenders Act in Annapolis for the last 3 years? If the plans are introduced again this year, will you support the legislation and use your position to urge other lawmakers to support them too? If not, what specific bills are you working with the Baltimore City delegation to introduce to hold gun offenders accountable? Is it time for mandatory minimums to be considered in Maryland for gun offenders? The mayor's office not even acknowledging the questions, ignoring the email and refusing to answer. While the mayor continues to punt on taking local action at the state level, mass shootings in Baltimore continue to climb, and families are forever impacted by the people who decide to pull a trigger. Now, the Violent Firearms Offender Act and other similar legislation have been introduced in Annapolis, mainly by Republicans year after year. And Democrats, including those from Baltimore City, as well as Mayor Brandon Scott, have not supported those proposals. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Mayor Scott to keep your community safe? So far, 97% of people who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
In the wake of the Morgan State University shooting, the mayor has pointed out shootings overall are down, but violence in Baltimore is grabbing the national headlines. Police admitted they made mistakes before and after the Brooklyn Day mass shooting in July. Last week, city police brass were criticized for their handling of Jason Billingsley's case. He's the man accused of murdering tech CEO Pavel Lapierre and committing a rape and arson days later.
Well, despite the string of high-profile violent crimes under his watch, the city council still approved Richard Worley's nomination as Baltimore Police Commissioner, and today he was officially sworn in.
Commissioner of the Baltimore City Police Department.
Commissioner of the Baltimore City Police Department.
According to the Constitution of Maryland.
According to the Constitution of Maryland.
And the laws of Baltimore City.
And the laws of Baltimore City.
Let's give our police commissioner congratulations.
Thank Mayor Scott for even nominating me and sticking with me. We've had a rough couple months, so I want to thank him for sticking with me.
Well, the new Fire Chief James Wallace was also sworn in today. Coming up at 4:30, Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell talking with a law enforcement expert about the new commissioner at BPD's response to the Jason Billingsley case and the efforts to hold Billingsley accountable for the horrific crimes he's accused of committing.
Adnan Syed was in Maryland's highest court today in an appeal that could decide if he remains a free man and could set precedent for victims' rights in future cases. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker was in Annapolis for that hearing and joins us live with the story. Maxine?
Well, Kai, the Maryland Supreme Court today hearing arguments deciding whether or not to send Syed back to prison or throw out his conviction in what's been a more than year-long legal saga. And at the center of this debate is victims' rights. In Maryland Supreme Court Thursday, Adnan Syed's freedom was back on the line. Syed served more than 20 years in prison for the killing of Hae Min Lee in 1999. His case becoming the subject of national attention thanks to the podcast Serial. But he's been a free man for more than a year after a Baltimore judge threw out his conviction when evidence was uncovered regarding other possible suspects.
Adnan has been home with his family for a little more than a year now, after decades of fighting to prove his innocence.
At the center of Thursday's hearing, Hae Min Lee's brother, Young Lee's rights. Lee was unable to attend the hearing in person that set Syed free, instead making a statement over Zoom.
Mr. Lee was not given adequate notice, was not given the right to attend the criminal justice proceeding, and was not given a meaningful right to be heard. That's all we're asking for.
He then filed an appeal arguing his rights were violated, saying he wasn't given sufficient notice. But before a ruling was made, Saeed's charges were dropped. A Maryland appeals court in March ordered a new hearing and reinstated Saeed's conviction, saying Lee's rights to notice and attend were violated. But the appeals court also found Lee did not have a right to be heard at the hearing. And then the Maryland Supreme Court stepped in, agreeing to take up appeals from both sides today, considering whether Baltimore City Court violated the rights of Lee. Lee's attorneys are urging the Supreme Court to recognize the rights of victims and their representatives to participate.
We're asking the Maryland Supreme Court to uphold those rights, to send this case back down to the trial court and mandate that the state present evidence, whatever evidence it has, so that we can see that evidence, we can examine that evidence, and you, the public, can examine that evidence so that we all
Baltimore news stations combined. The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
After sweeps galore in the wild card round, one AL East team remains in MLB postseason play. That's the Baltimore Orioles. After a 7-year postseason drought that included 3 100-loss seasons and a really tough rebuild, the 2023 team has injected new life into this fan base that has been there through it all. After a stellar season in their first AL East title since 2014, the O's skipped the wild card round, securing a spot in the ALDS. And get this, they did so with the 3rd lowest payroll in all of baseball. Saturday at 1 p.m., the best-of-5 series with the Texas Rangers begins, with the winner moving on to the ALCS. Regardless of postseason experience or lack thereof, Brandon Hyde believes his group will be ready when it matters most.
Everybody's going to have big-time butterflies that day, and it's going to be about being able to control your emotions and take a breath, not have the game speed up on you, not try to do too much. All those type of things are definitely going to come into play. I think our guys are kind of made for the moment.
Game 1 of the ALDS between the O's and Rangers will take place Saturday at 1 p.m. Game 2 at Camden Yards, that's scheduled for Sunday at 4:07 p.m. And you have Game 3 in Texas. That's for the 2 games. They'll head to Texas for that Game 3, and then if necessary, Game 4. You can catch Game 3 right here on Fox 45, then back to Camden Yards on Friday for Game 5. The wait is almost over as postseason baseball in Baltimore makes its return. We're talking ALDS all night long here on Fox 45 as the O's gear up for Game 1 against the Rangers Saturday at 1 p.m. Kai.
All right, Rocco, sounds good. And Rocco, as we look ahead to the playoffs, fans are showing their support for the O's. Tomorrow, you can get an Orioles logo stenciled on your car at Camden Yards. Pretty cool. The drive-through event starts at 6 and goes until 10 o'clock. Then at noon, the team will hold a pep rally with live music, lawn games, and giveaways just outside City Hall.
And we want to see how you're getting ready for the Orioles playoff baseball. Share pictures and videos of you in your favorite Orioles gear. You can make submissions at foxbaltimore.com/chime in or on the WBFF app. You can also scan the QR code on your screen right there.
You can also catch up on all things O's with the Rip and Rock podcast. Ryan Ripken and our own Rocco DeSangro will break it all down with new episodes every Monday. You can stream them anywhere you get your podcasts.
If only this weather would last a little bit longer into the baseball games.
Great baseball weather right now.
It's perfect. It's great.
Yeah, a lot of baseball excitement, but also a lot of atmospheric and environmental excitement coming our way as we see weather
That's not
changes.
as exciting.
It's not as exciting, right?
Sorry.
We don't want that kind.
NLDS weather, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, but let's get right into it. And yes, exactly. And well, right now I feel like we're seeing the championship weather, right? Maybe not going to be quite as nice over the weekend. HD radar shows us out. We've got, well, you can't see the clouds here. We don't have the satellite up, but you can see the rain that's approaching from the west. So this is going to be a concern as we work towards Saturday playoff game at 1 p.m. We got to get this stuff out of here in time for the game, right? Especially with the Billy Joel concert going on after that over at M&T Bank Stadium. Going to be an absolute traffic mess if we have rain delays. So hopefully that will not be the case. And it looks like we're kind of edging the rain out of here a little earlier and earlier on Saturday. So that's some good news. I'm going to show you the future scan here in a second. But the weather map for now, warm. We do have some extra clouds. Double cold fronts heading our way. They're going to combine, give us some rain as we head into maybe even as early as tomorrow afternoon. I think there could be a few showers, but especially tomorrow night and into Saturday morning. And then, ooh, wow, a sweep of much cooler air going to be heading our way, hopefully, and then a nice big playoff sweep by the O's coming up. 80 degrees, winds out of the south-southeast at 9 miles an hour. And speaking of which, there's beautiful Camden Yards in the background. We've got winds out of the south-southeast at 9. Bring in a little extra humidity as well at 52%. So feels like temperature is a little above the actual temperature at 81. So it's almost a little touch muggy, we'll say. 80 here in Baltimore right now, 77 at Cockeysville, 75 at Bel Air, 79 at Westminster. Temperatures 70s to near 80 pretty much area-wide. But this is a sign of a change. It's not as warm as it's been. The hottest it's been is 86 a couple of days ago. Now we're 80, 81, so we're a couple of degrees cooler even than yesterday, and we continue the big drop-off as we head out to the west as we start interacting with that cold front. So that's what's going to be coming. Now out in the tropics, there's Philippe. That continues to haul its way northbound. Potentially some high waves heading toward our shoreline, so watch that at the Delaware and Maryland beaches over the weekend. But Bermuda could get some tropical storm force conditions and eventually up into eastern New England as well as southern Canada, like with Lee, with a tropical storm potentially heading their way this weekend. Then there's a low chance of development that's way out in the Atlantic. That's something we'll track as well, but it's way out there. So the forecast overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, there's that risk of a spot shower even through tomorrow morning, but I think especially as we head toward later tomorrow night and into Saturday morning, there's that potential rain moving through. That's our front. And there it is, 12 to about 2 p.m., starting to move east just in time, of course, for the Orioles game. So there could be a stray shower to start. Otherwise, I think things get better through the game, but it's going to be blustery with temperatures in the 60s mainly for the game. Near 80 one more time tomorrow. Then the bottom begins falling out. 65 is the best we do on Sunday. Still breezy, chilly for this time of year and staying on the cool side all the way into early next week.
Well, toll roads are about to get more expensive while you'll have to pay a premium to get around parts of Maryland.
A major change in policy at the southern border, with several miles of new wall now set to be constructed. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at the major about face by the Biden administration.
A live look at the Capitol tonight, where GOP representatives are battling to become Speaker of the House. Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Congressman Jim Jordan have thrown their hats into the ring. In the wake of former Speaker McCarthy's removal, some Republicans are calling for the party to punish the group of 8 GOP members who teamed up with Democrats to remove McCarthy. But at the same time, Jordan is preaching unity within the GOP.
I disagree with, what took place, but those guys are friends of mine, and I think that's the message I've been talking to my colleagues about, is who can bring the 8 into the part of the team, who can unite our team. I think I can do that. If I didn't think I could do that, I wouldn't run.
Jordan also says he is the best choice to explain the GOP's objectives to Americans on funding for Ukraine, which has been a sticking point for Republicans. He says Republicans want to know what the ultimate goal is and how the money, taxpayer money, is being spent. Well, tonight, with new records being broken at the southern border in terms of sheer number of people coming into the U.S., the Biden administration has given the green light for border wall construction to resume. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has details.
A change of heart and of policy at the southern border. The White House restarting construction of a border wall because President Biden says the money allocated for it was set to expire, but also saying this.
Do you believe the border wall works?
No. So the Biden administration has decided to waive 26 federal laws to carry out expeditious construction of new border barriers in Texas, posting this notice to the Federal Registry, citing an acute and immediate need to prevent unlawful entries. It's a sharp pivot from what candidate Joe Biden said in 2020.
There will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
Former President Trump immediately asking if Joe Biden would apologize to him and America for taking so long. The decision comes as tens of thousands of migrants have come to the United States in recent days, and top officials like Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken are in Mexico, meeting with officials there at a time of increasing pressure for the White House to do more. New York City Mayor Eric Adams himself traveling to Mexico City this week, telling migrants not to come.
We want to make sure that we have a great level of transparency of the challenges that we are facing.
His city overrun after more than a year of migrants being sent there. And this was the scene in Chicago.
We're not anti-migrants, but it shouldn't be on our backs.
Residents furious. A local community field house was turned into a migrant shelter without their consent.
We lose this. You know how far our kids have to go to do activities?
President Biden's decision on the border wall is being slammed by some environmentalists, but celebrated by many Democrats, concerned by recent polls showing their party being overwhelmingly blamed for the crisis. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
How much do parents really know about Maryland public schools? Project Baltimore digging into new test scores to find out what needs to happen to fix failing grades. Revisiting previous sex crimes to see if an accused rapist and murderer could be responsible for other cases.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Rich Worley says his team will be revisiting previously reported sex crimes to see if accused rapist and murderer Jason Billingsley is connected to any other cases.
The department has been facing backlash for not releasing Billingsley's information to the public immediately after being named the suspect in a violent home invasion, rape, and arson, and whether doing so could have prevented Pavel Lepaire's murder days later. Now, Mayor Brandon Scott says the decision is leading to change.
Alexa Ashwell spoke with law enforcement expert and former FBI agent Dr. Tyrone Powers. She joins us live right now with his take on these developments. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary, Dr. Powers says releasing Billingsley's information should have been, quote, common sense and shouldn't even have to go all the way up to the commissioner. Tonight, he's expressing concern about the culture of the department.
1 week after accused rapist and murderer Jason Billingsley is taken into custody, questions remain about the handling of the investigation. One of the most pressing, why Baltimore police didn't alert the public about Billingsley sooner. Just yesterday, Commissioner Richard Worley revealing he too wasn't notified of the wanted flyer.
Yes, I was not alerted about the flyer and the wanted poster, and that's not uncommon, because what happens is our detectives and our supervisors, there's several levels that has to go through, and they make a decision, a conscious decision, after looking at the public safety factor.
The commissioner initially defended the department's decision.
If we made a mistake, I'd tell you we made a mistake.
When questioned, saying the violent home invasion, rape, and arson Billingsley was accused of committing before Lepaire's murder wasn't random, and that putting his information out there would have first required protection for those victims, and agents were actively tracking him.
You said Billingsley was being tracked, yet he was still able to commit another violent, heinous act. How is that so?
Quiet and decorum in the chambers.
Days later, Baltimore City Councilman Eric Costello told reporters Worley admitted Billingsley's information should have gone out sooner and assured him there would be a personnel investigation. And now, Mayor Brandon Scott says crimes such as rape must reach Worley's chain of command.
We now have talked with the commissioner about making sure that when it's from significant incidents, like something like a rape and arson, that will be bumped up to his level.
It's a requirement former FBI Dr. Tyrone Powers says a police agency shouldn't have to make.
And any kind of investigation of a violent crime should have known immediately to put his information out, because it was clear from just basic police training, from the patrol officer to the commissioner, that his information needed to go out.
Powers on what he believes will work.
Apologies do not save lives. Change of culture, change of policies, change of directives, and if necessary, change of commanders and first-line supervisors is what's going to dramatically reduce crime in this city.
Worley did issue an apology to the victims of the Edmondson incident, saying it was not his intent to victim blame them. The Billingsley case is one of a number of high-profile cases that have happened since Worley assumed his role. There was also the Brooklyn Day mass shooting and most recently the campus shooting at Morgan State University.
It seems like a difficult start, but he knew what it was when he took the position. The commissioner had been in the Baltimore City Police Department for over 25 years. He's been under numerous commissioners. He's risen up the ranks to his position as a commander, so he knows what it's like in that position. So for him, this is a difficult time, but it's a time that he could anticipate it and expect it. What he may not be used to is having to give explanations to the public.
Back to Billingsley, Worley says so far they've not linked him to any other crimes. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
An escaped suspect is at large in Baltimore. Police say 20-year-old Christian Green asked to use the restroom as officers were preparing to bring him to central booking for processing. During the bathroom break, police say Green was able to remove his handcuffs, overpower an officer, and escape. Green was originally arrested for stealing an ATM. Anyone with information should call Baltimore City Police.
Well, police say a group of people painted racist and homophobic graffiti near a playground in Annapolis. Investigators believe the vandals sprayed the hate messages around the playground on September 30th, sometime after 10 p.m. Anybody with information should contact Annapolis Police. much do parents really know about Maryland public schools? The latest round of state test scores does not tell the whole story about student outcomes.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps reports, some are raising the alarm over what's in the data and what's not.
Right now, if you go to the Maryland State Department of Education's website, you can find the 2023 state test scores for every school in Maryland. Just posted last week. This is where parents and taxpayers can go to see how their public schools are doing. But if you take a closer look at this data, if you scroll through it, you'll find there's a lot you can't see.
It is being called a scandal and a cover-up.
Earlier this year, a Project Baltimore investigation sparked outrage, exposing how the Maryland State Department of Education changed the way it reports student test scores, further redacting much of the data.
It's hiding the truth from parents.
As a result, parents and taxpayers don't know how many schools are doing. But Project Baltimore does. These are the newest state test scores from spring 2023 for Baltimore City, provided by a source inside city schools. Last month, we reported on 13 high schools in Baltimore City where 0 students among those who took the state test scored proficient in math. That story shed light on a major problem. But the only reason we could do that story is because the source gave us the raw data before it was redacted by the state. In the version we obtained from the source, we can see how many students in those 13 high schools took the state math test and how many scored in each proficiency level. Under levels 3 and 4, it's all zeros, meaning not a single student scored proficient. But this is what the numbers look like on the state's website for those same schools. The results are gone. In levels 1 and 2, they're replaced with asterisks. In levels 3 and 4, all those zeros now say less than or equal to 5%. Looking at this, you would never know the full extent of the problem at these 13 schools. And this is potentially the case for hundreds of Maryland schools. There are at least 200 schools, according to the state data, where the percentage of students proficient in math is less than or equal to 5. 77,000 students took the state test in those roughly 200 schools. There's a chance that none of them are proficient in math. The raw data we have is only for Baltimore City. So parents and taxpayers will never know because the state will not tell you.
The state education department is instituting a cover-up of what's going on in public schools. Is that outrage?
For more than 10 years, MSDE redacted test scores one way. But earlier this year, the state enacted what is called enhanced de-identification, which expanded the redactions by replacing much of the test score data with asterisks, the state says, to protect student privacy.
I think it's absolutely absurd to use children and privacy.
Parents and taxpayers like Desmond Stinney, a Baltimore City father of 3, aren't buying that argument. Stinney believes if the test scores were better, the state wouldn't be hiding them.
I would imagine if it were reversed and 89% of folks were exceeding the expectations, we would probably have a lot more transparency and insight as to what's really happening.
Mr. Chaudhary. In April, when Project Baltimore tried to speak with State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhary about enhanced de-identification,
removing test scores from the website,
he locked himself behind a door. In May, Chaudhary did agree to speak with us, saying Maryland was federally required to further redact the scores.
Was MSDE in violation of federal law prior to March with the way the data was being reported?
MSDE was not in violation of federal law.
Then why was the data changed?
Because we're applying, we have a new test, and we have shifting end sizes.
But the U.S. Department of Education's website clearly states under protecting student privacy that these decisions are left up to the individual state. In other words, Maryland is choosing to make less information available.
The public absolutely should see this data as long as we're paying for the school system.
State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry is resigning from his job. That is scheduled to happen on Friday. Since he's leaving, we asked the State Board of Education if it plans to reverse Chaudhry's decision and make more information available to the public about how schools are performing. If we hear back, we'll let you know. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, the Maryland State Board of Education has voted to appoint Dr. Carrie Wright as the interim state superintendent of schools. She most recently served as the Mississippi State Superintendent for 9 years. She will replace Mohammed Chaudhry, who plans to resign tomorrow after a series of Project Baltimore investigations raised questions about transparency in the Department of Education. You can read more about Dr. Wright and Chaudhry's resignation on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
There's new information as we learn the price that you pay on toll roads in Maryland is going up. The state is raising the cost in hopes of funding new infrastructure projects. This morning, Fox 45 News spoke with taxpayer watchdog David Williams about what type of impact that could have.
There are a lot of tolls in the Baltimore area, so it's really could impact local folks a lot. And the reason this is happening is for two reasons. First, it's a gas tax. The revenue just isn't coming in with gas taxes, and that's a problem. And we've seen this across the state, is that you have a lot more electric vehicles, you have hybrids, and even though there's been an increase in the gas tax, the money isn't coming in because people aren't using as much. But it's also about the spending. The state officials have a wish list of about $2.7 billion over the next 6 years.
Well, the toll increase comes as we're seeing a slight decrease in gas prices statewide. Right now, it costs $3.48 a gallon to fill up in Maryland. That's 7 cents less than a week ago and 10 cents lower than a month ago. Nationally, the cost is $3.78 a gallon. A dramatic landing last night, why a FedEx flight had to hit the runway with no landing gear.
I'm Dee Gatton in Washington. After speaking with one of the Kaiser Permanente workers on strike, his main concerns about how employee challenges could impact your care.
And for the commute this afternoon and this evening, more quiet weather, partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperature 70s to near 80, nice and warm. Open the windows, but oh yes, we're going to see a big temperature change, and it's ushered in by some rain. I'll let you know if that's going to impact the Orioles game coming up on Saturday. My Weather Authority forecast.
Moderna's new flu COVID combination vaccine is making some progress. Moderna says that vaccine appeared to result in strong immune responses for both conditions in the first phase of testing. The next round will involve giving that shot to a number of adults 50 years of age and older. Moderna is hoping to get approval by 2025. In the middle of a nationwide medical staffing shortage, thousands of workers are walking off the job. Dee Gatton is taking a look at the impact the Kaiser Permanente strike is having.
Union members say a staffing shortage is hurting employees and patients and is one of the big reasons they're on strike.
This is just one area, one medical center.
Some 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers walked off the job Wednesday, including Ethan Ruskin, who brought us to the picket line in San Jose.
So we really want Kaiser executives to return to the bargaining table and bargain in good faith to come to a resolution and fix some of these short staffing crises.
Since last year, the hospital system has hired 51,000 workers and has plans to add 10,000 more people by the end of the month. Ruskin says the challenges they deal with could impact you.
So many of our coworkers have left the industry, which leads to delay in patient care. We have concerns about the safety of our patients.
The company said it still was working through challenges from inflation and labor shortages. Kaiser Permanente is one of the country's larger insurers and healthcare system operators, though family nurse practitioner Veronica Sutherland says the challenges here apply to the healthcare industry as a whole.
What evidence-based practice is available for us to make sure our nurses are educated, we have enough staff to take care of the patients?
We get into this industry because we want to take care of our patients. We do not want to be out here striking, but we have just been pushed to the point where we feel like we have no other choice.
The healthcare industry has been hit by several strikes this year as workers point to burnout and problems that worsened with the pandemic. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Gatton.
Well, slimming down might be healthy, but a new study shows some weight loss drugs could cause health problems. It looks at popular injected medications like Wegovy, Ozempic, Saxenda, and Victoza. Researchers from the University of British Columbia say those drugs can cause some digestive issues, among them stomach paralysis, even bowel obstructions. Now, the cases are rare, but tens of millions of people take these drugs. A FedEx jet is forced to make an emergency landing at Chattanooga Regional Airport last night. Look at the sparks from under that jet, and that's a big bird. The Chattanooga Fire Department says the crew discovered a landing gear failure on its final approach. The Boeing 757 circled the airport several times before making its final descent. The plane crash landed, skidding off the runway. It came to a stop between the runway and a nearby road. All three people on board are okay and accounted for. Well, heavy fog rolled in over Towson this morning. This is a time lapse from our Towson cam, and you can see around 8:40 those clouds so thick the skyline barely visible, but things eventually cleared up around 10 o'clock. And here's a live look at Towson right now and the Inner Harbor. The weather just couldn't be better for a fall day. The fog rolled out and left us with clear skies, even some sun on this beautiful day. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, pretty shot of some of that fog this morning. And what we have to look forward to is our next weather maker. No, it's not going to be fog. No, it's not going to be warm temperatures. It's going to be rain, followed by some pretty big chill behind this. You can actually see all of the cold weather watches and warnings, freeze warnings out toward Rapid City out in the Dakotas. And this rain, it is going to be moving east, and we could get a piece of that perhaps tomorrow and especially tomorrow night into Saturday. And it's with kind of a double cold front right now. The warm air is on its way out after highs again in the 80s today. Rain moves in again for tomorrow. It should be fairly light. That goes for tomorrow afternoon, especially tomorrow night into Saturday morning. And hopefully the secondary cold front cuts it off just in time for the O's game to start Saturday at 1 p.m. And then much cooler and blustery weather comes in for that game in the afternoon. There's the progress of the front on Friday. You see it's right on the doorstep as we head into Friday evening, and I think by Friday night that is shifting east, and then we get in on some of this much cooler weather out to our west just in time for Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. Right now, 80 degrees off behind thus far on the day. I believe 81 is how hot it's been. Winds out of the south-southeast at 9 miles an hour. Humidity a little bit higher at 52%. And the dew point in the 60s, making it feel just a touch muggy and gave us some of that moisture for the fog this morning. But Mile 1 Tascam has, of course, cleared that out now. Temperatures in the mid-70s to right near 80 area-wide. But if you wouldn't believe it, this is actually 2 degrees cooler than we were 24 hours ago. Kind of part and parcel of some of that fog this morning, helping us with that cool down. Took a little longer to warm up. But then out to the west, this is with the rain and an eventual cold front. Temperatures 5, 10, 15 degrees colder than just 24 hours ago. So that is what is coming for us. Maybe not so much tomorrow, but especially Saturday, you're going to feel the big chill. Now, out in the tropics, Philippe, tropical storm. We've got tropical storm warnings out for Bermuda. Eventually, this could impact extreme eastern Maine, just like Lee did, if you remember, and also southern Canada. Should be well off our coastline, though. And then there's also a low chance of development that is way out in the eastern Atlantic. So as you wrap up this evening, temperatures falling from the 70s, eventually back down into the 60s overnight. This saying there could be a stray shower overnight. I think that's pushing it a little bit. I think it'll just be some clouds. But into the day tomorrow, again, those spotty showers, I think those are real by tomorrow night rolling in. So, again, a stray shower here and there Friday. But I think the better chance of some at least lighter rain comes Friday night, Saturday morning. And look, just in time for the O's game at 1 p.m. That rain makes you smile. Moving east and hopefully a big O's win after that. Although, again, it's going to be a lot cooler. 79 on Friday. That 71 is probably in the morning midday. Through the O's game, we may actually see falling temperatures as some sun returns and it's blustery. Sunday, 65 and also blustery. Maybe a PM shower or two on Monday. I put that in there with a high 66. Could lead in some somewhat milder air back for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock on Fox 45. Since the pandemic, bullying apparently has become more common in schools across the country. How parents can keep their kids safe.
The mental health crisis in America now affecting some of the youngest Americans. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. What we're learning about Gen Z, those aged 11 to 26.
The Surgeon General warning that America is facing a mental health crisis and anxiety and depression are on the rise. The National Desk, Angela Brown, joins us with a report that found Gen Z is the generation feeling the most anxious.
Gen Z, often depicted as tech-savvy and social media obsessed, may be feeling more anxious than their parents.
Many of them cited actual anxiolytic symptoms like racing heart and things like that when they're not able to use their phone.
A survey by GWI found 3 in 10 Gen Zers say they are prone to anxiety, the highest of all generations and growing. Allison Hatley from Digital Third Coast.
If you think about the cost of living crisis coming out of the pandemic, many of the members of Gen Z graduated college into the pandemic.
This Bankrate survey found 52% of Gen Z says money has a negative impact on their mental health. Financial experts from MarketWatch warning Gen Z sinking in debt.
Gen Z, if you exclude mortgages, has the fastest growing debt. So that's obviously troubling. And when you look at, especially troubling is like the credit card debt levels, right? Because you can see interest rates 15% or higher on that.
Counselors on college campuses are working with students to build coping strategies before they graduate and take on the world.
We promote a lot of outside things that a student can do to help themselves, such as exercise, yoga, mindfulness techniques.
A new survey says that 61% of the Gen Zers who are feeling anxious had an official anxiety disorder diagnosis from a medical professional and that their anxiety is getting worse. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
All right, an O's weekend all around, and it looks like on Friday some showers left over here as a cold front passes through, maybe even bleeding into Saturday morning. But look, by the O's game in the afternoon, some sunshine returns, but it's going to be much cooler. And Sunday looks like a dry day, too, so that's good for the O's game there. So Friday, 79, spotty shower, 71, that happens likely in the morning for Saturday, but during the afternoon, I think showers should move out for the O's game, and it's a breezy, cool, dry day for Sunday. And there is a first look at your O's forecast against the Rangers, 1 p.m. First pitch, maybe some light showers, but they should be moving out and breezy, cool, maybe a sprinkle, some extra clouds, mixing with sunshine, though, 5th and 9th inning for that big O's win.
All right, Jonathan. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the search for the next Speaker of the House continues after an historic vote to remove Kevin McCarthy. The frontrunners looking to fill the position. COVID cases are on the rise across the country. How you could be eligible for a free vaccine. Fox 45 News continues to follow the fallout at Morgan State University. The latest in the search for a shooter or shooters.
Pressing Mayor Scott on solutions to the gun violence in Baltimore, we question why he's not voicing more support for bills that would be stricter on crime.
Adnan Syed, the subject of the podcast Serial, appears in Maryland's highest court, the latest in the efforts for him to be a free man.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We started just hearing the shots go off.
You heard gunshots?
I heard the gunshots because I was standing right there and it happened right there too. So I just saw everybody running and heard the shots going off.
In the moment, it all happened so fast and you didn't get a chance to react.
Well, the Morgan State community reeling after shots ring out on campus during homecoming week. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Investigators are now asking for the public's help to identify the 4 men in this video as part of the investigation. Now, at this time, police are not calling them suspects, just saying they want to speak with them.
Police believe an argument between 2 groups led to the shooting, and right now they are looking for multiple suspects. 5 people were shot Tuesday night as students and the school community kicked off homecoming activities. 4 of those shot are students.
We have live team coverage, starting with Rebecca Pryor and the latest on the investigation. Rebecca.
Okay, there's still a somber tone on campus today. And I want to show you this really quick. This is what we've been seeing out and about today. More police than students, with classes canceled, homecoming canceled, and the search for a suspect continuing.
There should be crowds, streets and sidewalks full of students, staff, parents, and returning alumni this week.
Things are like quiet, everyone's gone.
Instead, Morgan State University feels like a ghost town.
It's like they took away like our safe space.
With classes canceled and homecoming celebrations on hold, the majority of those living on campus seen packing their bags and heading home.
Experiencing that was a lot. I needed to be away for a second to actually like take the time and actually like adjust what just happened to me, because whether or not you were there, whether you seen it, whether you heard it, it still happened on your campus. Go like hug your parents, you know, be safe.
And as campus clears out, police still searching for those involved in Wednesday's mass shooting.
Shots are coming outside onto the ground. Everyone, get down, take cover. Take cover, take cover.
Following an eruption of gunfire outside Thurgood Marshall Hall.
It was just like a ton of shots in a row, and then it stopped, and then more shots in a row.
SWAT teams seen storming the dorms.
They're going up, 6-4.
An hours-long lockdown ensued, but the suspect, or suspects, managing to get away.
We know that there was at least more than one person with a weapon. The problem is the ballistics has to tell us how many guns there were that were shot.
Overnight, BPD releasing this video, asking for help identifying these 4 persons of interest spotted near the scene where 5 people were shot, 4 of them students.
To me, I couldn't really see anything in the pictures.
I can't really see much or like who it is.
With no clear answers in sight until a motive is known and those responsible in custody.
Immediate flights home. We're talking about transferring.
Students say it's also unclear when or if they plan to return.
Everybody's just telling you, like, I don't know when I'm going to come back.
Police say none of the victims were the shooter's intended target. And of those victims, we now know that 2 have been released from the hospital and the other 3 are expected to make full recoveries. Reporting live from Morgan State University, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
I just couldn't believe it, especially, it being homecoming week. It just didn't feel real. It's stuff you see in movies.
It's like putting everybody's lives in danger, and I'm actually scared to go back on the campus. This week is homecoming, so we don't know what else to expect throughout the weeks.
I don't know, it's kind of like shocking.
It is, and we can't even go back on campus.
Well, as Rebecca mentioned, homecoming activities planned for the rest of the week have been canceled or postponed. According to the university president, all on-campus events except the homecoming football game and homecoming gala will be canceled. Those 2 events are being postponed, though. So far, a date has not yet been announced. All classes are also canceled for the rest of the week.
As another mass shooting leaves Baltimore residents worried for safety, they are turning to the mayor for answers. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our live team coverage. And Mackenzie, you're pressing Mayor Scott for answers about his plans to address crime in the city. Is that right?
Mayor continues to ignore our questions about support for potential legislation being introduced here in Maryland that supporters say would send a message to criminals that gun violence won't be tolerated. Whether it's on college campuses, community block parties, or on a school lunch break at Popeyes, the bloodshed in Baltimore is happening everywhere. Mayor Brandon Scott looking to leaders down the road in Washington to help break this cycle of bullets, cutting lives short.
We cannot continue to ignore the elephant in the room. This is a national issue that has to be addressed at the national level.
When we pressed him on why congressional assistance is the right approach, he says,
because it's their job.
Why can't you and other state leaders push for legislation at the state level to ensure there are tougher penalties for people who shoot and kill other people?
I think that when you look at Maryland's laws around guns and gun violence, we have some of the best in the country, Mackenzie. The guns are coming in from other places, other states. That is why this is a national issue. It's a both and, Mackenzie, not an either or.
Thursday morning on Fox 45 News.
I'm not surprised seeing the recent Goucher poll that 53% of residents have an unfavorable view of the mayor because of statements like this.
Community activist Eurypsy Morgan says people in the city are searching for solutions, not national appeals.
They want to know why there are not stricter penalties for people who are carrying guns illegally in their communities. Why would you not go down the street in Annapolis where the laws are being made?
We sent questions to Mayor Brandon Scott Thursday about legislation at the state level, asking, why didn't you support the Violent Firearms Offender Act or the Repeat Violent Offenders Act in Annapolis for the last 3 years? If the plans are introduced again this year, will you support the legislation and use your position to urge other lawmakers to support them too? If not, what specific bills are you working with the Baltimore City delegation to introduce to hold gun offenders accountable? Is it time for mandatory minimums to be considered in Maryland for gun offenders? The mayor's office not even acknowledging the questions, ignoring the email and refusing to answer. While the mayor continues to punt on taking local action at the state level, mass shootings in Baltimore continue to climb, and families are forever impacted by the people who decide to pull a trigger. Now, the Violent Firearms Offender Act and other similar legislation have been introduced year after year, mainly with support from Republicans. But each time, the Democrats have not supported the plan enough for those plans to become reality. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, in the wake of the Morgan State school shooting, the university has pointed out shootings are down overall, but violence in Baltimore is still grabbing the national spotlight. It was the Brooklyn Day mass shooting in July. Police admitted they made mistakes in the days before and after that shooting. And last week, police were criticized for handling of Jason Billingsley's case. He is the man accused of murdering tech CEO Pavel Lapierre and committing a rape and arson days earlier.
Despite the high-profile violent crimes under his watch, the city council still approved Richard Worley's nomination as the new Baltimore City Police Commissioner. He was sworn in today.
Commissioner of the Baltimore City Police Department.
Commissioner of the Baltimore City Police Department.
According to the Constitution of Maryland.
According to the Constitution of Maryland.
And the laws of Baltimore City.
And the laws of Baltimore City.
Let's give our police commissioner congratulations.
Thank Mayor Scott for even nominating me and sticking with me. We've had a rough couple months, so I want to thank him for sticking with me.
Well, the new fire chief, James Wallace, was also sworn in. Coming up at 5:30, Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell talks with a law enforcement expert about the new police commissioner and the city's response to the Jason Billingsley's case and the efforts to hold him accountable for the horrific crimes he's accused of committing.
Adnan Syed was in Maryland's highest court today in an appeal that could decide if he remains a free man and could set precedent for victims' rights in future cases. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker was in Annapolis for that hearing. She has the very latest for us.
The Maryland Supreme Court is hearing arguments deciding whether or not to reinstate Saeed's guilty findings, sending him back to prison, or throwing out his conviction in what's been a more than year-long legal saga. At the center of the debate, victims' rights. In Maryland Supreme Court Thursday, Adnan Saeed's freedom was back on the line. Saeed served more than 20 years in prison for the killing of Hae-Min Lee in 1999. His case becoming the subject of national attention thanks to the podcast Serial. But he's been a free man for more than a year after a Baltimore judge threw out his conviction when evidence was uncovered regarding other possible suspects.
Adnan has been home with his family for a little more than a year now, after decades of fighting to prove his innocence.
At the center of Thursday's hearing, Hae-Min Lee's brother, Young Lee's rights. Lee was unable to attend the hearing in person that set Saeed free, instead making a statement over Zoom.
Mr. Lee was not given adequate notice, was not given the right to attend the criminal justice proceeding, and was not given a meaningful right to be heard. That's all we're asking for.
He then filed an appeal arguing his rights were violated, saying he wasn't given sufficient notice. But before a ruling was made, Saeed's charges were dropped. A Maryland appeals court in March ordered a new hearing and reinstated Saeed's conviction, saying Lee's rights to notice and attend were violated. But the appeals court also found Lee did not have a right to be heard at the hearing. And then the Maryland Supreme Court stepped in, agreeing to take up appeals from both sides today, considering whether Baltimore City Court violated the rights of Lee. Lee's attorneys are urging the Supreme Court to recognize the rights of victims and their representatives to participate.
We're asking the Maryland Supreme Court to uphold those rights, to send this case back down to the trial court and mandate that the state present evidence, whatever evidence it has, so that we can see that evidence, we can examine that evidence, and you, the public, can examine that evidence so that we all can make a judgment as to what happened here.
Saeed's attorneys argue the point was moot when prosecutors dropped charges ending the criminal case against him, and Lee's rights were not violated because he attended virtually.
This appeal is about whether Mr. Lee's rights were satisfied by his remote attendance at the vacatur hearing, and whether the state had the power to decide it no longer wished to prosecute a case it did not believe in.
Saeed himself speaking out after the hearing in the name of justice for him, his family, and the Lee family.
We just wanted to say thank you to everybody for over all these years who just provided us with all the support and the encouragement. Our family, it just means so much to us, and we look forward to hearing the court's decision, and we're hoping that in the end, you know, we'll have a chance to prove justice, not just for Hayes' family, but for our family as well.
The justices will issue an opinion at a later date. Reporting in Annapolis, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
For our full coverage on the Saeed case and the latest developments from court, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Still ahead, concerns surrounding the physical and mental health of elected leaders. We look into whether or not those factors should play a role in their eligibility.
But first, anticipation building as the Orioles look ahead to the playoffs. Rocco DeSangro will join us live to break down all of the highlights.
Yeah, Big O's weekend coming, but as you see behind me, there's plenty of rain that's also coming. For now, it looks okay this evening. Temperatures are going to be falling through the 70s if you're going to take an outdoor run or maybe doing some push-ups out in the backyard. But I'm going to be letting you know when that rain gets here and what's to come behind it for your playoff weekend. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined. The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
After sweeps galore in the wild card round, one AL East team remains in MLB postseason play. Can you take a guess at who that is? It's the Baltimore Orioles. After a 7-year postseason drought that included 3 100-loss seasons and a really tough rebuild, the 2023 team has injected new life into a fan base that has been here through it all. After a stellar season and their first AL East title since 2014, the O's skipped the wild card round, securing a spot in the ALDS. And get this, they did so with the 3rd lowest payroll in all of baseball. Saturday at 1, the best-of-5 series with the Texas Rangers begins, with the winner moving on to the ALCS. Regardless of postseason experience or lack thereof, Brandon Hyde believes his group will be ready when it matters most.
Everybody's going to have big-time butterflies that day, and it's going to be about being able to control your emotions and take a breath, not have the game speed up on you, not try to do too much. All those type of things are definitely going to come into play. I think our guys are kind of made for the moment.
And as far as that moment goes, Game 1 of the ALDS between the O's and Rangers will take place Saturday at 1 p.m. Game 2, that's at Camden Yards on Sunday. That's scheduled for 4:07. Then the two teams will head to Texas for Game 3 on Tuesday. You can catch that right here on Fox 45 at 8:03. If necessary, there will be Game 4s and Game 5s. That Game 5 will be back here at Camden Yards. Well, the wait is almost over as postseason baseball in Baltimore makes its return. We're talking ALDS all night, right here on Fox 45 as the O's gear up for Game 1 against the Rangers Saturday at 1 p.m. Mary.
All right, Rocco, thank you. And we want to see how you're getting ready for Orioles playoff baseball. Share pictures and videos of you and your favorite O's gear. You can make submissions at foxbaltimore.com/chime-in or on the WBFF app. You can also scan the QR code right there on your screen. And you can listen to Rocco and Ryan Ripken talk all things O's on the Rip and Rock podcast. New episodes drop every Monday. You can stream them anywhere you get your podcasts. Well, taking a live look at Camden Yards tonight. It's been a warmer week, but we could see some fall temperatures return. I don't know if that's the sunshine making it look a little hazy there, but let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers to explain.
Maybe you have to clean our camera a little bit as well, but nonetheless, there is some bright sunshine coming in between the clouds this afternoon. On the HD radar, shows you rain that's actually approaching, and it is oh so slowly from the west. You see it's moving more so northeast, really, than to the east toward our neck of the woods. So it's going to take time to get here, but there could be potentially from some of this coastal stuff that's actually, if you wouldn't believe it, actually kind of coming off of a tropical system way down to the south and east. Could see a couple sprinkles out of that into tonight and maybe even into tomorrow, and then a better risk of a more solid, at least light rain that will come in tomorrow night into Saturday morning. And then double cold fronts, yep, they'll combine and start moving eastbound. So there's that shower activity for tomorrow with that weather maker. And by Saturday, the much cooler air gets here. So just in time for the O's playoff game at 1 p.m., those temperatures going to have a hard time reaching the 70-degree mark. Today, out of the park, again, part of my baseball pun, 79 degrees with partly to mostly sunny skies right now as we take a beautiful look at the Bay Bridge. Maybe some folks trying to make a little getaway here. Winds out of the southeast at 9, our humidity at 56%. The humidity not too bad, but a little bit up over yesterday for today. So we did have that fog in the morning. A little bit of a touch muggy feel this afternoon with 79. Baltimore made it into the 80s one more day. Could even make it close to 84 tomorrow. 75 at Annapolis, 79 at Stevensville, and 80 at Chestertown. But if you wouldn't believe it, those temperatures are 2 degrees cooler than they were yesterday. Not that impressive, right? But that is Cleveland out to Columbus feeling 10 to 15 degrees colder than it was yesterday at the same time. So that's that colder, rain-cooled air, frontal cooled air, all that's moving east. Out in the tropics, Philippe, that's that tropical system I was talking about. You see some of the outer little moisture from it that's trying to edge towards the East Coast. Again, there could be a sprinkle here or there tonight. Outside of that, all the main effects heading up toward Bermuda and eventually Could be a tropical storm as it heads up into, again, likely Maine and southern Canada. Then also a low chance of development that's out in the eastern tropical Pacific, but that's a ways away. So into this evening, nice dry skies, temperatures falling through the 70s for the remainder of the commute. A couple of sprinkles, maybe light showers. I may throw in a 20% chance of a shower tonight into tomorrow, and then about a 30% chance of a spot shower tomorrow. But I think especially tomorrow night and then into early Saturday, that's when your band of rain comes through. It's kind of withering as it does so, as I think a lot of the moisture may start combining with Tropical Storm Philippe well off the coast. So there could be some showers through about lunchtime. But as the O's game gets underway, yes, it will be cool. Temperatures probably mid to upper 60s near 70, but we should be mainly drying. 71 for a high on Saturday, but I think 60s primarily for the game. And, of course, you'll need a jacket for the Billy Joel concert in the evening at M&T Bank Stadium. 65 and breezy on Sunday, and then it warms up a little bit into early next week.
I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with renewed discussions about politicians and their ages. And is it time for term limits?
In your election 2024 coverage, there is increased talk about the age of politicians in Washington. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman takes a look at the issues of age and ability.
In Washington, experience matters, and that wisdom often comes with age. But there is a renewed debate about how old is too old to govern. Though it's not just about a number, it is also about ability. Mental fitness is sometimes the larger consideration, especially in the current race for the White House.
We all age so differently. Some people are old when they're 45, and others are spry at 90. So it should always be a case-by-case basis. You can be a national treasure and still be too old for the job. If I'm on a plane and the pilot says, "This is your captain, Buzz Aldrin," I'm getting off.
President Biden's more frequent moments of perceived confusion have given political opponents fodder for attacks.
I mean, the guy can't find his way off of a stage. And this guy gets up. Where am I?
Concerns cross party lines, though.
And a string of
81-year-old Mitch McConnell has twice frozen in front of cameras in recent months for extended periods.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute.
Prompting many to say it's time for him to step down, though he has no plans to, nor does 83-year-old Democrat Nancy Pelosi, who just announced she is running again.
I am motivated to do everything I can to win this election. I think it's urgent for our democracy.
Last month, the New York Times documented 20 lawmakers over the age of 80, some retiring, but the Times points out most have given no indication they intend to leave.
Also sticking around here for decades, the debate over term limits, and something one recent survey shows 5 in 6 Americans would like to see. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, coming up after the break, a violent summer in Baltimore prompting concern on BPD's response, how the newly sworn-in commissioner aims to gain the public's trust. Plus, following the historic vote to oust Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker, the search continues for his replacement, the two frontrunners looking to fill that position.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Rich Worley says his team will be revisiting previously reported sex crimes to see if accused rapist and murderer Jason Billingsley is connected to any other cases.
The department has been facing backlash for not releasing Billingsley's information to the public immediately after being named the suspect in a violent home invasion, rape, and arson, and whether doing so could have prevented Pavel Leper's murder days later. Now Mayor Scott says the decision is leading to change.
Alexa Ashwell spoke with law enforcement expert and former FBI agent Dr. Tyrone Powers. She joins us with his take on these developments. Alexa.
Kai, Mary, Dr. Powers saying releasing Billingsley's information should have been common sense and shouldn't even have to go all the way up to the commissioner. Tonight, expressing concern about the culture of the department. 1 week after accused rapist and murderer Jason Billingsley is taken into custody, questions remain about the handling of the investigation. One of the most pressing, why Baltimore police didn't alert the public about Billingsley sooner. Just yesterday, Commissioner Richard Worley revealing he too wasn't notified of the wanted flyer.
Yes, I was not alerted about the flyer and the wanted poster, and that's not uncommon, because what happens is our detectives and our supervisors, there's several levels that has to go through, and they make a decision, a conscious decision, after looking at the public safety factor.
The commissioner initially defended the department's decision.
If we made a mistake, I'd tell you we made a mistake.
When questioned, saying the violent home invasion, rape, and arson Billingsley was accused of committing before LaPere's murder wasn't random, and that putting his information out there would have first required protection for those victims, and agents were actively tracking him.
You said Billingsley was being tracked, yet he was still able to commit another violent, heinous act. How is that so?
Quiet and decorum in the chambers.
Days later, Baltimore City Councilman Eric Costello told reporters Worley admitted Billingsley's information should have gone out sooner and assured him there would be a personnel investigation. And now, Mayor Brandon Scott says crimes such as rape must reach Worley's chain of command.
We now have talked with the commissioner about making sure that when it's from significant incidents, like something like a rape and arson, that will be bumped up to his level.
It's a requirement former FBI Dr. Tyrone Powers says a police agency shouldn't have to make.
And any kind of investigation of a violent crime should have known immediately to put his information out, because it was clear from just basic police training, from the patrol officer to the commissioner, that his information needed to go out.
Powers on what he believes will work.
Apologies do not save lives. Change of culture, change of policies, change of directives, and if necessary, change of commanders and first-line supervisors is what's going to dramatically reduce crime in this city.
Worley did issue an apology to the victims of the Edmondson incident, saying it was not his intent to victim blame them. The Billingsley case is one of a number of high-profile cases that have happened since Worley assumed his role. There was the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, and most recently, the shooting on Morgan State University's campus.
It seems like a difficult start, but he knew what it was when he took the position. The commissioner had been in the Baltimore City Police Department for over 25 years. He's been under numerous commissioners. He's risen up the ranks to his position as a commander, so he knows what it's like in that position. So for him, this is a difficult time, but it's a time that he could anticipate it and expect it. What he may not be used to is having to give explanations to the public.
Back to Billingsley, Worley says so far they've not linked him to any other crimes. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. Continuing coverage tonight of the mass shooting at Morgan State University.
Baltimore City Police need the public's help in identifying these 4 men as part of the investigation. At this time, police are not calling them suspects.
5 people were shot Tuesday night as students and the school community kicked off homecoming activities. 4 of those people shot were students. We can also confirm one of them has been released from the hospital. Baltimore police are also revealing the 5 victims were probably not the intended targets.
And this is the 3rd year in a row that a shooting has broken out at Morgan State during homecoming week. The university announcing most homecoming events have now been canceled.
Please understand that the safety of our campus is of the utmost importance, and our resolve here at Morgan is in ensuring that we have a safe and secure campus, and that is paramount.
The canceled events include the homecoming parade and concert and all other on-campus events. The traditional homecoming football game and the gala have been postponed. Classes have also been canceled for the rest of the week.
The Morgan State shooting is also generating criticism tonight of the Gun Safety Act, also known as Senate Bill 1. That law went into effect on Sunday, and it prevents legal gun owners from bringing their weapons into many public places, including schools. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has the story.
Gunshots on the Morgan State campus.
It was just like a ton of shots in a row, and then it stopped, and then more shots in a row, and then people started running
leaving 5 people injured in Baltimore's 11th mass shooting of the year.
When is enough going to be enough?
The shooting happening just 2 days after Senate Bill 1, which prevents legal gun owners from carrying within 100 feet of a school, went into effect.
We know that there was at least more than one person with a weapon. The problem is the ballistics has to tell us how many guns there were that were shot.
Sparking that old argument that this new law only affects legal gun owners.
Bad guys don't care if they're within 100 feet of the building.
Former Assistant Police Chief Curtis Clemens says the shooting at Morgan State is a prime example.
If we had law-abiding citizens, we could have taken out the shooter and brought this to a stop very quickly.
And while no arrests have been made in the Morgan State shooting, Clemens pointing to a huge problem with Senate Bill 1.
By being a lawfully armed citizen, you are still facing criminal charges and saving lives. And that, I think, is the crux of the problem.
A problem he says is one criminals are not concerned with.
The typical criminal element that is out there, they don't care about this law. They're going to get a gun off the street, and then they're going to use it on the people in the community who are left vulnerable and unable to protect themselves.
Meanwhile, Clemens says Senate Bill 1 needs to go back to the drawing board.
I think the Senate needs to go back, take a look at this law, tweak it, and make it better for the lawfully permitted citizen out here who wants to carry a gun lawfully and is trying to do things the right way.
Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
For more on our coverage of the Morgan State University shooting, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, Baltimore mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon holding a town hall, and one of the top concerns there, public safety.
Dixon was joined by retired Baltimore Police Deputy Chief Melvin Russell and retired Baltimore City Circuit Judge Wanda Hurd. While there was no prolonged mention of Tuesday night's shooting, residents raised numerous concerns over crime. The former mayor says residents don't feel safe despite the current administration saying there's been a reduction in overall crime. Dixon says it's time for change.
Why Sheila? Why now?
I like my private life. I also love this city. I know it's going to take an experienced leader to move the city forward in an aggressive way that right now is not happening.
One resident spoke about crime in her senior living building, saying she's seen people selling drugs outside and doing other illegal activity. Dixon told her that concerns from seniors will be a top priority in her administration if she's elected.
A Goucher poll released just this week shows Baltimore residents may be ready for a change. The poll surveyed more than 700 voters. Just 27% are backing Mayor Scott, while 39% would vote for Sheila Dixon. Fox 45 News has reached out to both Mayor Scott and Sheila Dixon, inviting the two candidates to participate in a series of Fox 45 News town halls leading up to the Democratic primary. Dixon has agreed to attend a Fox 45 News town hall on October 24th, where she will answer your questions and share her plans to address the biggest issues facing Baltimore. Mayor Scott has not yet responded.
Well, former President Donald Trump wants to delay the start of his trial over retaining classified documents until after November 2024 presidential election. That trial is scheduled to start in May, but his lawyers argue prosecutors are dragging their feet in sharing the classified evidence with them, and the schedule will conflict with the other federal criminal case against Trump over efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Trump's team argues that they'd have to be in two places at once. Trump is accused of illegally hoarding classified documents after he left office and obstructed the government's efforts to retrieve them. He denies any wrongdoing. Taking you live to New York City right now, where Trump is asking a judge to dismiss criminal charges against him over hush money payments made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The Manhattan DA's office brought the indictment after a 5-year investigation. Trump's lawyers argue it was meant to interfere in Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. They note the grand jury that handed up the indictment was seated weeks after Trump announced he was running for president. In April, Trump pled not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records.
Well, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted because he muscled a continuing resolution through Congress to avoid a shutdown. That's according to the man who spearheaded McCarthy's removal, Congressman Matt Gaetz. He says McCarthy's deal made it hard to pull back government spending.
I actually think that we should fund these agencies of government separately. We shouldn't smush all of the disparate, non-related matters together for one up or down vote. So when Kevin McCarthy did that, we utilized a provision of the rules that we fought hard for.
Well, Gates and many conservatives believe the budget process should return to passing 12 individual bills, which would help weed out what they think is unnecessary spending. McCarthy sees it differently.
You all know Matt Gaetz. You know it was personal. It had nothing to do about spending.
He says Gaetz was in it for attention and is targeting him over a House ethics investigation opened against Gaetz in 2021 before McCarthy was Speaker.
After leading the charge to oust McCarthy, Congressman Matt Gaetz wants to be House. Who does he want to see as House Speaker? He says both candidates currently are running good choices.
Steve Scalise, who's our current number 2 from Louisiana, and Jim Jordan, who's my personal mentor, is someone I really look to as a personal hero, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Though either Jim Jordan or Steve Scalise would be a marked improvement over Kevin McCarthy.
Only Congressman Steve Scalise and fellow Republican Jim Jordan, as he had mentioned, have announced official bids. Scalise was McCarthy's second in command. Jordan was a staunch supporter of McCarthy's speakership. Gaetz' decision to file a motion to vacate earlier this week was a controversial one, pitting him against moderates and, again, McCarthy allies. Coming up after the break, October is National Bullying Awareness Month. Fox 45 lets parents know what they can do to protect their kids.
It is one shot instead of 2 for COVID-19 and the flu. I'm Liz Bonus with new research on when it might be available just ahead.
And maybe warm now and great for heading out to dinner this evening, with temperatures falling from around 80 back into the 70s as we head into the early overnight hours. But you know what? Things are going to get a lot cooler and maybe wetter around here by the weekend. I'll let you know how that could affect your Orioles postseason game plans and my Weather Authority forecast.